folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Forsaken Forest, and it is self-published by designer Alec Nezen. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Forsaken Forest has its roots in the classic games Werewolf and Mafia, but it takes it in a drastically different direction. It is a competitive team-based game. You and the other players are trapped in this dark, cursed forest that seems to have a mind of its own and is actively trying to hunt you and kill you. More than that, however, it has infected the minds of certain players, certain characters in your group, and turning them into these Forsaken, who are trying to either murder you outright by deceiving you and tricking you into thinking they're actually one of your group of the villagers, or they're trying to lead you into the void and basically make you one with the forest. If you are just a good guy, though, a villager, you're just trying to get back to your village or eliminate all the Forsaken, root out and eliminate all the Forsaken that are amongst you. So, not only is this a deduction game where you're just trying to figure out who the other players are and what team they're on, and eliminating the bad guys from your perspective, but it's also, there's a spatial element to the game. There's actually a board where you're navigating through these dark woods, trying to find special artifact cards to help you, using other traveler cards to help you out as well, taking actions turn by turn, and then until the night cycle comes again, and then in the traditional sort of werewolf way, there's going to be the Forsaken are going to try to kill you, and you're trying to use cards to stave that off. But in the meantime, you're desperately trying to find your village and avoid going to the void. Hard to say. But if you can get to the village, you can save everyone. So I know that sounds kind of complicated, but I'm going to break it down for you with a prototype copy of the game, a little preview section here. So do bear in mind that what you see here, of course, is going to change in the final version. You can tell that the cards here didn't have the back art ready yet, but that will, of course, change in the final version. That's why you should go to the Kickstarter page to see all the art that's going to be coming up for the game. But then in any event, we are going to come back and discuss it further. Forsaken Forest is a competitive, team-based deduction game for 4 to 12 players. Players are either innocent villagers trying to escape the cursed forest and get back to their village, or they are the Forsaken, people that are being controlled by the dark forest to deceive the villagers and lead them into the void. Collectively, all the players are called travelers during the game. The villagers won't know who the Forsaken amongst them are at the beginning of the game, and must figure it out during the course of the game's days and nights. One of the teams will win the game when either one team has lost too many people, or when they've been led to either the village or the void. Start by setting up the game, of course. The most important thing to do is to distribute the role cards. One player should be chosen as the moderator to remain neutral and keep the game going from phase to phase, or, if you'd prefer, you can use an auto-moderator on the publisher's website. You'll have a certain number of villagers and Forsaken, depending on the number of players. For example, in this preview we have a 6-player game, and therefore 4 villagers and 2 Forsaken. Either the villagers or the Forsaken may be favored depending on the dispensation of roles and the number of players. Shuffle the chosen roles without looking at them and deal 1 out to each player. They will look at the card without showing the other players and then put it back face down for the rest of the game. After some experience playing the game, you can start adding special roles in place of normal villagers and normal Forsaken. For example, for the villagers, you could have the Navigator, who can peek at face-down destination cards during the night, the Oracle, who can peek at other travelers' face-down roll cards, the Priest, who can protect another player from being killed, the Blessed, who is herself protected from being killed the first time, and the Cursed, a villager who actually shows as a Forsaken if anyone looks, but still must win with the villagers. The Forsaken have the Coward, who knows who the Forsaken are when the game starts and will win with them, but counts as a villager for other purposes. The Silencer, who can use entangling vines to literally force another player to be silent for the next turn cycle. And the Shrouded, who is absolutely a Forsaken and even leads a team during the night cycle, but during the game will show up as a villager to anyone else who looks at his card. Lay out the game board representing the forest with a grid of squares called territories. The destinations will soon be placed on the outskirts, but for now leave them on the board. There is only one village card and one void card. All of the rest in that deck are dead ends. Make a stock of path tokens which will mark off explored territories during the game. There are also several different decks of cards to shuffle. First, the Traveler's deck. Every player will start with 3 Traveler cards face down. These are powerful cards that any player can use regardless of their hidden role. They can do things like forge a path on the map, draw cards, peek at another player's role, or even mark another player for death. Cards can be slow actions, meaning they can only be played on your turn, or fast actions, playable on another player's turn. Regardless, you're only allowed one action and therefore one played card per turn, including your own or anyone else's turn. Then there are the Forest and Artifact decks. Forest cards represent the game working against the players. The Forest will inflict curses, disasters, and darkness on all the players, regardless of what their actual role is. It does not differentiate between the Forsaken and the Villagers. These can hasten the arrival of the night cycle, force players to discard cards, shift around the position of the destinations, or put a player on death's doorstep. Artifact cards, conversely, are all good, giving powerful abilities equivalent to or better than Traveler cards. You only discover these by getting to an excavation site on the map, which are the yellow boxes around the map, and they are either a Finder's action card, meaning the player who excavated takes the card and can use it only once like a fast action at any point in the future, or it's a group action card, which you immediately activate and apply to all players when discovered. The last set of cards are night action cards. When certain roles like the Priest and Silencer need to use their ability during the night, or when a player has been marked to death by the Forsaken, they'll use these cards as rules reminders and markers. The game begins with Night 1. During the night, the moderator will instruct everyone to close their eyes, and then instruct the Forsaken to open their eyes and identify each other. Then they have about a half minute to place all the destinations down in the spots around the board, face down. In this way, the Forsaken will know exactly where the village and the void are, at least at the beginning of the game. Several special roles also wake up at night to perform their special abilities, so the moderator will have to go through these one by one, if they're even in the game at all. Then it's time for day 1. Everyone is awake, and players take turns in clockwise order, starting with a randomly chosen first player. Every 6 players' turns are followed by a Forest deck turn, and that is called a turn cycle, which constitutes a day. You can keep track of the turns on a tracker on the board, but until a Darkness card is drawn and played uncontested from the Forest deck, you keep going through turn cycles, so you could do several of these before that actually happens. Each player's turn has 3 parts. First, draw a card from the Traveler's deck. Second, you can take actions, either by playing Traveler's cards or artifacts. Third, other players are allowed a chance to play fast actions on your turn. During your turn, you're encouraged to strategize with the other players, even though you may not know if they're the good guys or the bad guys. Your main goal should be traveling as much as possible away from your starting point, which is the center of the map. And you're going to do this primarily by using wander cards and other types of navigation cards. You use path tokens to denote areas you've explored. You always must navigate to territories next to territories you've already explored or the center area of the map. If you explore a yellow square, you can excavate an artifact, as we described before. If you explore a red square, you can flip up the corresponding destination card. In fact, if you're too close to the void card and the Forsaken players realize this, they can play special cards to force you to explore there, so it can be a little bit dangerous getting too close to certain destinations. You can also forage on your turn, which does not require an action and lets you discard 2 wander cards to draw a new card from the Traveler's deck. If you don't really feel like traveling, do this to get new cards. After 6 turns, a forest card is drawn and inflicted on the players before turns begin again with the next player. But eventually, as mentioned before, one of these will be a darkness card and you'll initiate Night 2. Once again, the moderator tells everyone to close their eyes, but now the Forsaken will choose a player to become the next ritual sacrifice, giving them that card and marking them as on death's doorstep. When the players wake up for the next day, they have one final chance to save that player by using cards like Revive. If they cannot, that traveler will die and stay dead for the duration of the game. Players can also use certain cards to send a player to the gallows. They are accused of being Forsaken, and up to 3 players can each ask the accused one question in order to interrogate them. Then there's a simple and simultaneous thumbs up or thumbs down. If thumbs down outnumbers thumbs up, the accused is marked for death. Then the turn cycles begin again until darkness falls again for another night. The day-night cycles continue like this until one team has clearly won. Villagers either need to eliminate every Forsaken in the game, and the Forsaken will have to let them know when this happens, or successfully reaches the village. The Forsaken need to eliminate enough villagers for there to be either a 1-to-1 ratio of villagers to Forsaken, or a clear majority of Forsaken. At that point, the Forsaken have automatically surrounded the townfolk and forced them to submit. There's really nothing the townsfolk can do about that. Alternatively, the Forsaken can trick the players into navigating straight into the Void card. Whichever team meets one of these conditions first will be the winner of the game. That is Forsaken Forest.
Well, I mean, really, this is a fascinating game. Again, you can't avoid mentioning that there are, shades of those old classic Werewolf and Mafia games, but so much else is unique and added onto the game. Starting, of course, with the board and the spatial element here. So you not only have multiple paths to win, literally, you're making paths to one of the win conditions. For better or for worse, depending on what team that you're on. So you can be desperately trying to get towards the village. Nominally, that's what you're working towards. But because of the Forsaken that are in your ranks, they could be actively tricking you into going straight into the Void. Or by using some of the special cards, you might just be going to the outskirts of the map to excavate one of those artifacts. Again, another very unique aspect of the game. But while you're over there, they use cards to pull you towards one of those red spaces and potentially unearth the Void whether you like it or not. So it's very dangerous to get near any of the destinations unless you really intend to go there. But of course, if you're making a beeline for one of those destinations, a couple of the other players can be like, maybe you are the navigator and you have the first-hand knowledge. Hey, I happen to look at the village card. Great, let's go. That's where the traditional hidden role parts come in, where people are like, wait a minute. Why are you so eager to go there? Are you actually on our team or are you working against us? And that's where the back and forth comes in. Well, wait, if you're saying that, are you actually on my team? And so let's just assume a game with only the base roles. Even then, there's this back and forth, what do you know? How do you know this? You can there's so many different cards that happen during the course of the game. The Traveler cards, so many different ones. And the artifact cards as well, and also the things that the forest will be doing to you. So many things can change the game state that there's always suspicion on players, and you need to keep careful track of what happens in order to keep track of who does what and why they did it, and then eliminate who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, and so on during the course of the game. Then when you throw in those extra rolls, all bets are off. Oracle can be looking at roll cards, Navigator can be looking at destination cards. They can use that information. They can be pretending to be the Navigator or the Oracle, and then someone says, hey, no, you can't be that, I'm the Oracle. Now who do you believe? But then, of course, on the Forsaken side, if someone is shrouded, you can think that they're a villager the whole game. The Oracle can see their card, because, I should point this out, in the final version of the game, cards like the Coward and the Shrouded will be double-sided cards. You'll actually have to use a sleeve if you want to use those cards, those rolls, and you'll have to flip the card around. So if someone actually looks at the Shrouded's card, it will be on the villager side after the first night. So you have really interesting things to throw into the mix here to really throw people off. So you always have to be thinking one step ahead, I just saw that they're a villager, or are they? That type of thing. So again, you have the traditional hidden role format elements here, but then this whole thing of digging a path through the forest and all the different types of cards that you can use makes it into far more of a strategy game than a party game. It's this actually interesting blend of the two, so that it can feel like a casual game at times, the casual type of party hidden role deduction game, but then a very deep strategy element as well. If any of those things sound like they appeal to you, you like the dark eldritch type theme to the game, if you like the hidden roll and deduction, if you like the sort of outwitting the other players as you trudge a path through hand management card play, hey, don't take my word for any of this. Go to the official Kickstarter project page. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. You can go there, find out way more information than I could possibly tell you, see what the final artwork on the cards is going to look like, things like that, see what stretch goals would be like, and hopefully after all that, you will consider backing the project. That is Forsaken Forest from designer and self-publisher Alec Nissen. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors. Take care.